Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today I've got another first impressions video for you. It's of this. This is the Fuliwen 017. It's a bright pen, isn't it? Look at all the colours in that pen. Join me down on the mat. We'll take a closer look at the pen. We'll look at the ink. We'll do a writing sample, and then I'll give you my first impressions. Welcome down to the mat. I'm going to get this out of the way first. This is a pretty pen. I'm going to turn it around. Just look at these gorgeous colours. So this is the Fuliwen 017. And in here I'm seeing lots of blues, lots of reds, greens like neon green and neon yellow, oranges, little bits of black, maybe a bit of grey, some silver, all sorts of colours going on in here. I think this is really pretty. It's an unusual pen for me. Normally I get pens which are maybe one or two colours, but when I saw this I thought, wow, that's so different, let's give that one a try. Let's take a look through the body. So this is really a cigar shaped type pen. So we've got the dome at the top. We taper out until about maybe a third of the way down the cap. Then it seems to be more or less straight. At the bottom of the cap, there's a little drop off to the body. And then the body that continues straight and then starts to taper back in. And then we've got at the other end another dome. I can feel at the end here near the dome, it feels like there's a little seam. It's hard to tell because it's just a slight little feel, but it's there anyway. Let's take the cap off. This is going to be hard. That's rough. Right, let's try this again. Let's look here. So we've got that yellow there. We don't have a clip, so it's hard to tell. So that goes round once, twice, just under 3 turns. That's not too bad though. Let's take this off. And we'll take a look at this nib. So the nib, it's all one colour. It's all that silver tone. Let's take a closer look at it. So on here, it's very plain. There's not a lot of decoration. So we've got 2 lines on the outside following the shape of the nib. Underneath the breather hole, we've got a square. And it looks like there's a shaded in triangle and a shaded in circle. Underneath that, we've got Fuliwen. Under that, we've got an M. And then 18 kgp. Number 6 size by the look of it. That comes into the section. The section, it's got similar colouring to the rest of the body. One thing I will say, none of this colouring seems to flow onto one another. So it's not as if it's come from the same piece of resin. Again, I'm not bothered about that. It just would have been nice. You know, I see this when I've got my more expensive pens. You see that consistency. But considering I only paid 38 Australian dollars for this, you know, who's going to worry about it for $38? It still looks pretty. With the section, at the bottom of the section, we've got a lip. One of the things that I personally don't like is I don't like these lips because I find that my fingertips, they dig into them, especially with longer writing sessions. It's comfortable to hold though. The section, it doesn't have any concaveness to it, so it seems to taper straight out till we get here to these threads. Quite a lot of threads, but 3 turns to come off. And then this opens up to show a cartridge converter. The cartridge converter comes with it. There we go. Now, because this wasn't in a bag or a box, I have already taken the opportunity to ink this pen up. Why I've done that is I was using an ink sample, so I had to syringe fill this. So it just gives time for the ink to get from the converter and down and then into that feed. Let's pop this back together. Just kind of give you one more turn around it because I think it looks so nice. But you can see here where I'm saying about how the colours don't flow. I mean, there it does. This orange seems to flow and it looks quite nice. But then the rest of it, it's really a mismatch. And that, as I say, to me, Not enough to stop me from liking the pen, but it's enough that I notice it. We'll do some size comparisons, so I'll just swap over my pen stand. So for the first comparison, we'll use my standard benchmark pens. So that's a Pilot Metropolitan and a Lamy Safari. So looking at this, the Fuliwen ever so slightly longer than these two. Let's take the caps off and look at them unposted. Unposted, the Fuliwen, well, it's roughly the same length as that Metropolitan, and they're both definitely slightly shorter than the Safari. Just move the nib on that. If we look at the nibs, so we've got a small nib there on that Pilot Metropolitan. Looks like a number 6 nib on the Fuliwen, and then the Safari, well, that's got its Lamy nib on it. Going to now post these pens. Posted, the Fuliwen slightly longer than the Safari, but it really knocks the Metropolitan out of the park in terms of size. I'm going to now swap these pens and fetch in some that are within the same price range. The Metropolitan and the Safari, they were both a similar price to this pen, but I thought I'd fetch in a couple of different ones as well. So here we have a Wingsun 699. This is actually the piston filler version. That was 35 Australian dollars. I've brought in the Hongdian 1841. That was 40 Australian dollars. And bang in the middle of them, we've got the Fuliwen 017, and that was 38 Australian dollars. So very much similar price range. And again here, that Fuliwen, it's definitely the longer of the three, but it's only just beaten out that Wingsun 699. Let's take the caps off and look at them unposted. Unposted, well, we've got a slightly different story now. The Wingsun 699 slightly edges out that Fuliwen 017, but both still longer than the Hongdian 1841. If we look at the nibs, they're all a number 6 size nib. So it's a standard-ish size, which means it's going to be easy if I want to swap out the nib and try different nibs in there. Let's pop the caps back on. With the cap on, that Wingsun 699, that's even longer than before. So that's definitely, of the three, that's the longest. And the Fuliwen and the Hongdian, yes, the Fuliwen, it's slightly longer than the Hongdian, but only by a little bit. So I would say, in terms of size, they're similar. Let's clear off these, and we'll take a look at today's ink. Today's ink, when I looked at the pen, there's so many different colours in it. So I thought, right, what samples do I have that I haven't used for a while? Because I can use virtually any colour. And then I thought to myself, let's go for this one. Robert Oster, Australian Sky Blue. This is a nice, gorgeous, bright blue colour. If we fetch in the pen, there's a lot, certainly where the light's shining on it, there's a lot of bright blues in there. So I think we've got enough of a match that we can say it's a matching pen. Hard to say though, really, isn't it? I've already filled it, as you saw before. Because I syringed filled that converter using a sample, that's the easiest way. I've given it plenty of time to sort through, so hopefully it should start writing as soon as we get going. Let's move that out. And we'll fetch in the notepad of testing. So this is a black and red notebook. It's used in the Oxford optic paper. This is a really nice fountain pen friendly paper. And I try and use this notebook for all my tests, so I've got a consistent paper type. Let's do some writing. So we've got here a Fuliwen 017 with a medium nib, and it was 38 Australian dollars. The ink, Robert Oster, it's Australian Sky Blue. I'm going to point out already, I'm not going to call them issues, but I'm seeing certainly opportunities with my writing. If you look at the tops of the S's, the line vanishes. Look at the top of the T, the line vanishes. Same with the top of the B, with the top part of that arrow, with the top part of the 3, with the top of the E in blue. So that's something I need to look at. It could be I just need to spend a little bit of time to do just a little tiny bit of work on the nib. It's not really hard starting or skipping, it's just going very, very light. Could also be down to the ink because the ink is a fairly unsaturated blue. So we'll see how I go on with this. I may end up putting in a darker ink colour to try that. Let's look at drying times. So we go immediate. Wow, that looks quite wet. 10 seconds. Going to have to go on to the next line. 30 seconds. Then 1 minute. After a minute, that's still fairly wet. What I'm going to do is now leave it for 2 minutes to see what happens. After 2 minutes, well, yeah, now we're nice and dry. One thing I'm going to comment on. There's no clip on this. There's no roll stop. So whilst I was waiting that 2 minutes, I popped the pen down on my desk, turned my back, and it rolled off. So this is something I'm going to have to be aware of, the fact that it rolls easy. Let's move the mic and write a sentence. In this sentence, it was nice to write with. There's a nice amount of feedback. It was really pleasant. I do like a little bit of feedback in my pens. I don't like the ones that are overly smooth. I'm still seeing in here a lot of the issues where the ink's going pale. As I say, could be down to the pen, could be down to the ink. I need to experiment with that after I've done the video. But overall, yeah, that was a nice experience. Let's look at line variation. So no pressure. Adding some pressure. Do you know, I do love this. I don't know if you noticed when I was doing these. As I draw the line down, I'm going to do the next one. Then when I get to the bottom, it fills up with ink. Do some S's. So this could be why I'm getting the issue that I've got pale areas as well as dark. I'm going to do my scribble test. So this test here is just to see how well the ink flow keeps up. There we go. Let's pop that cap back on. Hopefully this won't roll off. It wants to go. There we go. What are my first impressions of the Fuliwen 017? You're not going to miss this pen, I can tell you. Look at how bright and colourful it is. Absolutely gorgeous to look at. It really is. And it looked pretty on the photo, and in real life it really does match that. I'd have liked to have had a roll stop or something to stop it rolling. As I said earlier on in my tests, it rolled off the desk. It's nice when I feel this material. I don't know how best to describe it. The material, it does feel glassy. It's very, very smooth. My fingers glide over it. What I was finding with this pen, when I was waiting for my 30-second and 1 minute drying times, I was actually sat there and I was fiddling with the pen. Normally that doesn't happen. Normally I put the pen down when I'm waiting. But this pen, it's just so tactile, it wants me to touch it. And that's actually quite nice because you've got this gorgeous feel. As I say, it feels silky. It's very light, you hardly know it's in your hand. But it's nice to have in your hand and nice to play with. Take the cap off. This unposted, yeah, that's really nice and comfortable. I've got to be honest, I know it will post, but I don't want to, just in case I end up damaging this material, because this material looks so nice. I like the number 6 nib, gives me the opportunity to change it. With my writing, as I said, I need to look at this where I'm getting this paler colour, especially on the top of letters. It could be, as I said though, the fact that it's going pale and then filling up when I release the nib. So I may need to look at adjusting how I write. It could be that that's the issue, not the actual pen or ink. For $38 though, I think this is really good value. It's unusual. Not sure if it's a pen that I would take to a business meeting, but for using at home, for using at my own desk, yeah, I'm quite happy to actually pull this out of my bag and sit there. Sitting in a coffee shop, can you imagine some of the conversation starters this could be for you? So this is my first impressions of the Fuliwen 017. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What do you think of this Fuliwen pen? Are there any other Fuliwen pens that you think it might be worth me trying out? Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.